let me say that I'll go ahead and transpose two, just to save time, and say Goodfellas is my number 8, and now I'll reveal my number 7, which is The Insider, which, I love Michael Mann. Obviously, I have a thing for Pacino. I didn't, it didn't scream to me, this movie will be terribly exciting about the ultimate whistleblower for the tobacco industry. And I looked at the running time, and 2.5 hours for a movie about a tobacco whistleblower, that seems like overkill. But the movie, it really is. But when you're in the hands of a master director like Michael Mann, I mean, the movie is so tactile and hypnotic and so uniquely done that I was completely engrossed. Because, first of all, the newsman, I mean, Pacino felt like a newsman to me. And that world felt, talk about authenticity, that world felt very real and authentic to me. That was fascinating. The moral quandary of Russell Crowe, and they didn't back away from showing the hot-headed nature of him. I mean, any other director under studio advisement, they'd be like, well, could you make him a little bit more likable?
I love that they didn't do that too, because that they kept that question going on in there, because it provided a sense of suspense in the film that might not have normally been there. It was like, okay, should I be on this guy's side or should I not? You never quite leave his side, but
what it also did, it keeps him from being the crusader, because his motivation for this could just come down to the fact that he's a major hothead and he doesn't want to be fucked with,
right.
Which is different from I stand for a right and wrong, and it's more gray than that, really.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film to look at, and Michael Mann's use of music to set a mood.
Oh my God!
Extraordinary.
That moment where they're going out to he and Al Pacino and the crew of lawyers are going out to give the deposition, and there's that guitar music that's playing, like ding 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 ding. That moment is incredible to me. But just also that great moment too, where another car moment where Russell Crowe is in the back seat being taken home, and he sees this car that's burning.
On fire, yeah.
And it's on fire. It's never explained. But that would have been another thing. Like, why would you, the executives would be like, okay, what is this burning car here? It's never explained in the film, like, why is there this burning car or everything. It's just something there that gives you this feeling of impending doom,
Yeah.
And the film is filled with doom all the way through it. I do love those scenes. I love how it cuts back and forth between the personal scenes with Crowe and his family, and then feels very comfortable. It feels very comfortable when they go into the boardroom scenes, not only with Crowe and the tobacco bigwigs. One of them played by Michael Gambon or.
Gosh. Michael Gambon has one scene in that movie, and he's extraordinary.
Right, yeah.
He is so great in that scene. But then I love also that incredible scene in the film where Gina Gershon comes up as a lawyer for CBS and reveals to the producers of 60 Minutes what could happen to the entire network if they go forward with this story. And I think that might be my favorite, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I mean, this is a great movie. Again, another movie from 1999. And you can go and I seriously have watched this movie, 20 times now.
And the characters,
I always enjoy it because it has so much to love in it.
more than just the two lead characters have arcs. I mean, Christopher Plummer's Mike Wallace has a really interesting arc that I'm sure Mike Wallace, to his dying day, argues was not the fact of it. I think he was just uncomfortable with, what
being portrayed,
what the true story was. An extraordinary movie from a guy that was absolutely at the top of his game in this period of time. Oh my God!
I mean, the last of the Mohicans, Heat, and this one. I mean, and this Russell Crowe's performance is just out of this world, incredible.
Oh yeah.
It is. It really is. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I guess he had to gain a lot of weight for the role, and if you think about it, I mean, the year after he won the Oscar for Gladiator, and of course he had to lose all of that weight that he gained and actually buff up for that movie. And I personally still think that he won the award for Gladiator because they didn't give it to him for The Insider the year before, and they gave it to Kevin Spacey instead.
I think that's a fair thing. I think that's definitely a fair.
There's a lot of that performance. That performance you can feel the anger and frustration and just bottled up in this person. When that moment comes when Al Pacino calls him out on some of the things that Crowe had not revealed to him about his past life, some of the lies that he had kept going for and everything. You're just like, God, leave this guy alone already. He's just trying to do the right thing. And he's not a perfect person, but
I mean, you really do get a sense of the stress that a whistleblower is under.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I have to mention, another scene that I really love in The Insider, and this might be my favorite scene, and it's a great. The movie is great because another reason the movie is great is because it does not shy away. I mean, we've already mentioned a few of them, but it doesn't shy away from giving one great scene to one performer, and that's their only great scene that they have. And that scene with Bruce McGill as the lawyer that's fighting for Jeffrey Wygant, played by Russell Crowe, and he turns around and he's trying to get the deposition from him, and then he's getting a lot of flack from Wings Hauser as as the opposing lawyer. And he just has this incredible scene that, if I could have given a supporting actor award to Bruce McGill for that year, I would have. Except to say that it's his only really big scene in the movie, so it's like it'd be strange. But he is
not
so
really,
great.
We remember him.
He has 2 or 3 scenes in the movie, but he really doesn't have a lot of lines in those other 2 scenes.
It is absolutely a surprising volcanic moment. And I will say my all-time favorite Pacino performance is Dog Day Afternoon. I think that performance is perfection. My all-time favorite single moment is Pacino in this movie. And it's right after he gives his big monologue, and I've said this before, but it's when he looks to Mike Wallace for support and said, people like Mike and I, essentially we go after the truth of the story. We can't be afraid of the truth. And Mike Wallace says, Lowell, I'm with Don on this, meaning I'm not on your side. There's a moment where Pacino completely deflates. It's a silent physical moment, and I thought that is the most extraordinary piece of acting I've ever seen. That one moment was so amazing to me. I felt it so viscerally, and it's something that he's tried to recapture in the intervening years. I think he realized that was a great moment for him because he tries to do it again in Any Given Sunday when Cameron Diaz says you just got old. He does it sometimes in Merchant of Venice. He does it in Donnie Brasco. That kind of, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. So people that are rewatching it or going to it for the first time, look out for that moment, I think.
He's great in the movie too. I mean, but everybody is. I mean, every single person. That's number 38 on my list of the decade.
All right. All right. So, Dean, give me your next one, which would be your number 7.
Well, my number 7 is a tie. And I told myself, I originally went with just one of these movies, but I said, this is stupid. I'm going to make it both of the movies. And that is John Lasseter's Toy Story and Toy Story 2. Toy Story was from 95, and the second part was from 99, yet another great 99 movie. I originally had Toy Story as my number 7 pick. Toy Story 2 is my number 7 pick. But I say, that's stupid. I'm going to put both of them in there because they can be talked about in the same breath. I think that they really work together as the same thing, as definite, parts, two parts of the same story. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to make it a tie. It has to be. Toy Story, of course we know the Toy Story series, changed cinema in many ways, and it certainly changed, moreover, it changed animated cinema to the point where now we don't, as they were the first, digitally 3D animated films, and now that's all we get. We don't have any more flat animation. It's very rare to see anything flat anymore. So, obviously they're effective on that level. But it would be wrong just to say that that's their only effect. The big effect was their script writing and the casting. Nowadays when you see an animated film, it's inevitable that the cast of voices in an animated film is going to be, tremendous. It's going to be as tremendous, maybe even more tremendous than the cast of any live-action movie could be, because, the actors, it's easier for the actors to collaborate together on an animated film, so you can get something like, like Shark Tale that has... Well, it has Will Smith in it, but it also has Martin Scorsese in it as an actor in it. So, but it's obvious that also that the casting in these two movies has been so effective that it has not only spawned a third movie, and who knows, probably a fourth and a fifth is in the future somewhere down the line. But also, a bank of short films that, at least 5 or 6 short films, that have kept the same cast right down to, Wallace Shawn as the dinosaur, or Don Rickles as Mr. Potato Head, or Annie Ross as Bo Peep and so forth. So it's obvious that, they did something right the first time. They really got it perfect. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, let's talk about the story. The screenplay is so brilliant because it uses toys. I would have loved to have been, sitting in there while they, in the Pixar, boardroom or whatever, while they were coming up with the idea of Toy Story and Toy Story 2, the whole Toy Story, empire, because what they were doing was that they were commenting, when they came up with this story, they were really, what they were doing was they were commenting on the fact that they were now adults working in an animation field, and they were having to reach out to children while still being adults. So they actually had to, I think they actually created Toy Story to actually make some kind of bridge between the adult world and the child's world. And this created a sort of philosophical sort of they kind of delved into sort of a philosophical notion of what it was, what toys meant to us as children, and what they mean to us as adults. So that's another thing. Toy Story was all about what toys mean to children. Toy Story 2 was all about what toys mean to adults, and what why adults actually gravitate to collecting toys in order to recapture some part of their youth. And so this thing that initially seems like, oh, it's just a bunch of toys or whatever. No, it's not about that. It's about aging. It's about the very distinct stages that we go through in our lives, and what these material things mean to us, and how we infuse these material things with personalities of their own, which is another thing that the Toy Story series does, is it lets these toys actually display the personality that we wanted them to have all along. And that's just one of the many things that makes them great. They each have incredible music by Randy Newman. And particularly, I love Toy Story 2 a little bit more than Toy Story 1 because I like that they kept it down to just one song that was in that movie, and it was just the most incredibly affecting song.
If you're feeling sorry for yourself, I can't think of a song that that accentuates that emotion more than Sarah McLachlan's song in that movie.
Yeah, what She Loved Me is just, if you're feeling even the tiniest bit sad, or you want something to just wrench that out of you, that song in Toy Story 2 is going to do it. And not just the song, but the sequence that accompanies it too. Mm-hmm. That sequence actually says everything about the Toy Story series. It really says it all right there in that 3 minutes, and that's why I like that film a little bit better than Toy Story. But it's wrong of me not to put them both together. I just think that they're lovely and great.
Good choice. Good choice.
Very good choice, yeah.
So, Jerry, what's your number 7?
Will you play the sound clip you have of me talking about this movie?
Is this it?
Spanking the Monkey.
Yeah.
I think Spanking the Monkey is very bold.
Is that it?
I wanted to save time, but yeah, I wanted to. That's the one. Yeah, I want to do this because, this guy made 3 really awesome movies that decade. But let's just start with the first one, Spanking the Monkey. You're just going to play that all over and over again?
I'll edit
No,
that
why I like this movie, though, and maybe Jeremy Davis got typecast after this, between this and the...
God, what a thing to be typecast for.
But, more so than anything, I just like, and I don't know if he could make the same film today, or maybe he could. We'll find out in a couple of days with the Silver Linings Playbook. But I like that the main character, at the end, just leaves. I've always been struck by that. He gets in the truck, he leaves. He just goes away. His family, at the height of dysfunctional families, as far as I'm concerned. But he has an affair with Mom, and he's not doing very well in life. He's having his troubles, and I've always liked that at the end, and this is something no one could get about me after a while. I just really like that he was able just to walk away, just leave. It's very much, we talk about 5 Easy Pieces. Very much a character like Jack Nicholson in 5 Easy Pieces. Very much that kind of mindset. I would, and you must forgive me. I haven't revisited the film. I have the script somewhere around here, but I haven't revisited the film in a very long time. I don't think I need to. As long as that sound clip is available, that you have of me saying that, I don't think we need to revisit the film. I think that sound clip says everything. I love Spanking the Monkey. But,
he's an interesting filmmaker, and he really did. That was his debut film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a big step. That was a big stepping out. A movie like that. And I don't think he's made. I mean, I cared a little less for I Heart Huckabees, but outside of that, I don't think he's made a movie that hasn't worked for me.
Well, I'm just curious. It is I Heart Huckabees is, remember when it came out, it was a very divisive film on the film festival circuit. You either loved it or you hated it, kind of thing. So you're not alone in that. I mean, a lot of people. I think I like the soundtrack better than the actual film, but the film has some good points, but it doesn't. It's missing something. It's a weird follow-up from something as brilliant as Three Kings, which was way ahead of its time.
Well, it just seems that I Heart Huckabees just seems like it's. I think that I Heart Huckabees is kind of exploring it's obviously exploring a philosophical point that a lot of people don't believe in. So that would keep a lot of people from looking at it. A lot of people don't believe that we're all connected, that everything's connected in the world, that we're not really separate entities, that we're all So that's it's too big of a thing for people to get. Plus, the movie has it has this sort of wacky sensibility to it that throws a lot of people off.
It does. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a good movie. I would love to have been a fly on the wall, obviously, while making it. But he's an interesting filmmaker. I mean, he really has made like a lot of different kind of movies.
He has.
And that's fascinating. But I just thought this was a good movie. Once again, like Gas, Food, Lodging. Very good coming of age story. It's a great little movie. Now, what do you guys think of Flirting with Disaster?
I'm a huge fan. I mean, I have both Flirting with Disaster and Three Kings on my top 100, but I don't have Spanking the Monkey. I think mainly not because I don't like it, but just because I really haven't gone back to take a look at it.
Right, no, I understand.
For a really long time.
Lot of these I haven't gone back to take a look at. But I love Flirting with Disaster too.
I like it too. You know what though? I'm curious because he got with Lily Tomlin and I Heart Huckabees, and before that with George Clooney and Three Kings, being very vocal that he wasn't going to work with Russell again. So he got a public spanking. And looking at his last one, The Fighter, and reading a lot of, I was supposed to go to a screening the other night for Silver Linings, and I couldn't make it, but reading about that movie. I mean, he seems to have attained this kind of generosity of humanity.
Right.
In these past two titles, that is a lot more pronounced than in previous movies that he did.
Right. I can get a fair assessment.
It's interesting, I think that he has I'm not talking about him like as how he works or personally or whatever. But I think that he has a sort of a really effusive kind of feeling for humanity in all of his movies. I think it's really easy for me to see a lot of meanness in a lot of the indie movies from the 90s and even the 2000s. But I don't feel a lot of meanness in his movies. I feel that they're very fair to each of their characters, and now that he's moved more into the mainstream, I think that's become even more so now. And I understand that's the same way with Silver Linings Playbook. I love his sense of. He has just an overarching kind of sense of fun about all of his films. There's a real. I mean, with maybe a little bit less in Spanking the Monkey, but even so, that movie is extremely funny in a lot of moments. And he doesn't shy away from expressing in the same scene both a sense of joyous sort of hilarity, and also like a kind of like wincing kind of I can't stay in this room any longer. I gotta
Right.
get out of here.
Yeah, he has a hard edge to him, but I think as of late he's found like this really strong empathetic tone.
Mhm.
And maybe it's just the prospect of getting older. Maybe it's I don't know when he had his child, but he is a father. And his son, I think, who's young, was in The Fighter, like one of the opening scenes of The Fighter. So I think maybe it comes with being a recent parent. I don't know. But I sense it in him. Dean, was your number 7 Toy Story 1 and 2, right? Okay, so we're up to number 6. So I'll say my number 6, speaking of twist endings, knowing the twist of this one only deepens your appreciation of it, and that is David Fincher's 7. 7 is my number 6. Sorry I couldn't put it at number 7. That would have been good.
That would have been a little too precious, I think.
Yeah, I do adore this movie. And for I remember one of my acting teachers watching it and saying, it was just it's a typical serial killer movie. And I said, well, I like it because it's the exact opposite. I mean,
I think it's the best serial killer movie.
Oh, and if you think of the tropes of the serial killer movie, it turns almost every one of them on their head. And the ones that it maintains, that he's the wizened cop near retirement, and he's the hothead new recruit that's partnered up with him, it makes it human. It makes it believable.
Right.
They are very realistically and naturally motivated by their placement in life, where they are in their lives, and the repercussions that are suffered by Brad Pitt are a direct result of where he is in life, as kind of the hothead, hot shot. I think beautiful chemistry between the two of them. The most gorgeous, ugly cinematography you've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, that Darius Kanji cinematography is just absolutely superb. I think that's one of the things that just tumbles this movie over into like unbelievable greatness. It's just that and also just the design of it, the set design. When you finally make your way into John Doe's apartment, you're like, what? And then but also let's not forget the incredible credit sequence by Kyle Cooper. That really sets the pace. I mean, it has to be considered one of the top 10 greatest credit sequences ever, maybe top 5. It just really, when I saw this movie, I didn't have any expectation because we didn't really know who David Fincher was at the time. But when I saw that credit sequence, I was like, "Oh my God!" And then I learned it was Kyle Cooper, but still, it's a David Fincher choice to have Kyle Cooper do this, and it's an incredibly wise choice. But they obviously worked closely together to put it together, and it's amazing in that credit sequence how much that credit sequence actually reveals to you. So many details of what's to come, And again, another twist, it was great that the movie came out before the internet became huge. Because
it really is.
Oh, yeah.
When you're sitting there watching that movie and you're like, tra-la-la, and all of a sudden Kevin Spacey pops up, your guts just fell out of your body watching that.
Absolutely.
That.
The killer turns himself in halfway through it.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, where the hell is this movie going?
How is that a traditional serial killer movie? When you're the person said, like you said, it turns it all on its head. If you want, the traditional serial killer movie came out a couple of weeks later, Copycat. But
yeah, exactly.
But, that's what's a really terrifying thing. You think about the movie as some Fincher movies, you do think they leave a mark on you. If he doesn't turn himself in, well, good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Well, and
exactly.
And it really, these cops in the movie, they are true characters, and it's one of those instances where every piece of the puzzle serves the whole. You know, everything is organic to what that movie's trying to express. So the visuals absolutely deepen the themes of that movie. They're working in perfect concert with each other.
I love seeing why. Go ahead. I mean, I was just going to say that one of the things I love about it too is that once you finally meet and talk to hear John Doe expressing his views on the world, I think that it puts the audience in an interesting position because it's not, his views on the world are not really that different from the views that any one of us might have. You know,
kind of. I mean, it's interesting. Sort of to a lesser extent, somewhat of the interview seen in Natural Born Killers a couple of years before between Woody Harrelson and Robert Downey Jr. There's some of that thought process there. But then you could also say he's, you know, that's what a lot of people, not a lot, but some people said after reading the Unabomber's manifesto, Ted Kaczynski, was that, wow, some of this makes sense. Not his methods about going about it were not right, but when you read the text of what he was saying. So I think it's very important, you know, he does, if this is the right word, humanize Kevin Spacey in those scenes.
He does. He doesn't make him a crazy nut, you know, like the kind of crazy nut that they were, that Pitt and Freeman were expecting, you know, like.
But also, what I love,
there's a great line in the movie. I just want to say this. There's that great line in the movie where if the devil pops out of John Doe's head, I won't be surprised or whatever. It's something like that.
But that's what's great because, especially in that scene where John Doe has his big monologue in the back of the police car, it's the reaction of both of them to him.
Right.
That Brad Pitt will not have any of it. Brad Pitt does not get it. Nothing's getting through. Morgan Freeman knows he has something planned. I mean, this is planned, and we're pawns in this. There's just this kind of deep sense of inevitability in Morgan Freeman. In that scene.
Morgan Freeman is a character that actually shares some of these views that John Doe has. This is why he wants to get out of the business. He's tired of it because it's scarred him as to his view of humanity. And when Morgan Freeman gets, there's that wonderful, let's don't forget Gwyneth Paltrow in the movie, who has a few great scenes in it. His relationship with Gwyneth Paltrow seems to, and I'm talking about Freeman's relationship, seems to sort of reawaken some sort of love of humanity in him, and that makes the ultimate ending, you know, just so much more tragic, just not for Pitt, but also for Freeman as well. You know, that's one of the great things about the movie is that you know there's not that the gulf between, you know, the detective, you know, the lead detective detecting on this thing and person that he's after is not really that wide, you know. And meanwhile, you know, Brad Pitt is kind of just playing at being a TV cop, you know. He's like, he's doing all the things that he's seen on TV, you know.
But he doesn't let it inside, as Morgan Freeman has. And so Brad Pitt pays the ultimate price, and at the end of it, and he understands. He understands
right
by the end of it. I'm sure.
We did a great show about this movie a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we brought on one of the producers, and yeah, it was interesting. Okay, that was my number 6, so now we got to do you guys' number 6, and then we're done for the night. So Jerry, what's your number 6?
We talked about it earlier, Boogie Nights, and I've talked about it. I think on those top 20, our favorite films the last 20 years. I think Boogie Nights was one of them. You'll forgive me. I don't remember. It was a little over 3 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
But,
yeah.
It was a good, really. I mean, that was a great weekend. I went to go see Boogie Nights and then the Ice Storm. So that was a great week.
Oh, I love the Ice Storm.
I like Boogie Nights. There's another case, you know, a director who had 3 incredible films, this decade, Hard Eight, and then Magnolia at the end of the decade, and but Boogie Nights was just it's intoxicating, like Goodfellas, like like some of the like a lot of Altman films, like Shortcuts, like Nashville. There's something very intoxicating about a Paul Thomas Anderson film. But here he manages, like Altman, he can juggle all these different storylines, all these different characters, and he makes it work. He has never not made it work, like Altman before him. Everything comes together. Everything's very, I don't know how he does it, but he makes it work. And he does which is the definitive movie on the golden age of pornography. Even though it's not real, it's not accurate according to a lot of people. It is, when you think of this era, this is what you think of. You're talking about Goodfellas, where the beginning's all nice and everything, and then the end, the drugs and everything. Wow, you get it here, and oh god,
interesting casting. I mean, there's a case to be
casting.
There's a case to be made that Mark Wahlberg's never been better. And I like Mark Wahlberg.
That's true. There's some, but you look at Three Kings, you look at
The Fighter.
Night, or
he's
done
great. He's done great work. But this movie really, that character really goes on a ride. I mean, the character has a major arc. And of course, Burt Reynolds, who I adored.
Yeah,
in the movie.
He's great. There's a lot of great. You go back. We did a show on this one too. On a great
Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's hysterical in the movie.
Yeah,
I mean he's really great in that film.
Oh, he is. It's such a, he's kind of faint. In movies you see like a Lake Quartet, or you see shades of that character. His quirks come out, or in Jack Goes Boating. You see those quirks still from Boogie Nights come out. I don't think you see it in The Master. I could be wrong, but Philip Seymour Hoffman came into prominence, or the first time I remember seeing him was Scent of a Woman.
And Boogie Nights is decidedly a different character than that.
Right.
And I'm sure he played it very tragically, that he's in love with
it's that scene, and you have I don't know about you, but you have an inkling it's coming. I mean, and it is, but you're just like, wow.
when he's trembling every time he's holding the boom,
I never noticed that.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, he is.
And his belly like hanging out of his shirt. His shirt's too short for his belly.
That's a great detail.
Performances.
Yeah.
And we talk about, something's very important here. You talk about Scorsese's use of music. We talk about Kubrick's use of music. We don't always talk about Anderson's use of music, because the last three films really had John Byron for Punch Drunk Love, and then for The Master and There'll Be Blood, he has Johnny Greenwood. He's had these incredible scores. But his use of, or Amy Mann for Magnolia, but his use of the songs of the period. It's two soundtracks, if I'm not mistaken. There was one and Volume 2. Volume 1, which got worn out on cassette tape. But great choices of music. Really, and I would dare to say the rollers. I got a brand new pair of roller skates is just one of Sonic used
brand new key.
yeah.
Brand new key, my melody.
It's a great. You don't, when you hear that song, you think of Roller Girl. You don't think of anything else.
I love that use of that crazy version of Beethoven's Ode to Joy that's done in it, which was a top 10 hit in the 70s. I just want to read something that I have to say about Boogie Nights. I did on my website, Filmability. I still find many moments in Boogie Nights to be quite wonderful. The widescreen cinematography by Anderson regular Robert Elswit is always vibrant and inventive, as is the diverse 70s-era source music score, which pairs nicely with that sort of sad circus-flavored underscore by Michael Penn. Anderson writes dialogue for dumb people particularly brilliantly, so there's always funny conversation ensuing. And the period detail and the garish art direction by Bob Zembecki and costume design by Mark Bridges, who's gone on to do The Fighter and The Artist. He won the Oscar for The Artist, is absolutely spot on. I love seeing Burt Reynolds tearing into a meaty role for possibly the last time, and Julianne Moore is beautifully histrionic, as she would be in Anderson's Magnolia as well. And both she and Reynolds received supporting player Oscar nominations. And as always, I find John C. Reilly to be a hoot. In this, he plays Reed Rothschild, Dirk Diggler's, cohort or whatever in porn and in life. And Philip Seymour Hoffman is great. It's sort of sweetly doofy as the crewman who gets a crush on Eddie. And that tortured confession, I think, is the movie's most shattering scene. But I have to say this, I also find many parts of the movie don't work. William H. Macy is kind of shamelessly barely sketched punching bag of a character, and Don Cheadle's story fails to make a deep impression. And by the way, I want to note, anytime you see a character in a white suit, you can bet that thing's going to be covered in blood by the end of the scene. And Graham's roller girl, while being extremely cute, also seems a little thinly written. For me, it feels like Anderson just has too much movie here for 2.5 hours to hold. I think Boogie Nights would have been a much better TV series or mini-series. Also, the film owes a bit too much to the Goodfellas style of soaring and then crashing storytelling, with the onslaught of the 80s being a rather too obvious turning point, though thankfully the AIDS virus doesn't even make a cameo appearance. But that said, the movie is required viewing if only for its extremely tense final third, which finds Eddie struggling with a cocaine addiction while trying to launch a hilariously ill-thought musical career. And, of course, there's that scene with Wahlberg and Riley and Thomas Jane stuck inside the coke dealer's house, played by Alfred Molina. And you'll just never listen to Jesse's Girl or Sister Christian the same way ever again. I mean, it's
Sister
amazing.
Christian, man.
Yeah.
The use of that movie.
Yeah.
It is inspired music, and it really is the birth child of Altman and Scorsese. I mean, that movie in particular is for Anderson, I think. And I prefer too much movie over too less.
Yeah, I gotta say, and I want to just, I don't think any filmmaker has ever made the San Fernando Valley look so beautiful. I mean, and I don't mean that as a snarky, cynical. I mean, yes, the Valley is. I mean, how many thousands of porn films take place in the Valley or filmed in someone's backyard or swimming pool? But who has actually made the Valley look beautiful? And it is not beautiful. I would move there tomorrow if given the opportunity. But I mean, the Valley became his playground, really, to tell some of his stories, Anderson. And while I agree with Jamie 100%, I'd rather have too much movie than too little. And I mean, I would welcome a 5-hour director's cut of Boogie Nights. I would go buy that right now.
I think I would like it better. I mean, it might be a.
I don't think I walked
that
out.
it's a positive to say that I wish that it was longer. I mean, I do.
But I walked out inspired. I walked out. I felt good about life when I walked out of that film.
It is an invigorating movie.
Yeah, it is.
Like I feel after a lot of Tarantino films.
Yes, exactly. That was it. I think we talked about it when we did our favorite directors. I said that about Tarantino mentioned, but this is just otherworldly. And it also, unfortunately, is the first of all Paul Thomas and Anderson films. It does great in limited release, and when it goes wide, it dies. Which is always it's unfortunately he's just not. How do we say this? He's just not for all of America. He's just never really.
I agree. I don't think that.
And that's not America's fault. He's just not telling. He is talking about his view and the way he sees things is just never going to be mainstream. It's just not, unfortunately. And there's nothing you can do about that at this point. With with the films he has under his belt. I mean, he gave Adam Sandler his greatest performance, and people didn't go for it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That, like, you know, as big as Adam Sandler is, you know, this is the one movie they stayed away from. It's crazy, you know. I just
so, Dean, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is the only Best Picture Oscar winner that appears in my top 10. It's from 1992, and it's Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. This is a movie that came at a point in Clint Eastwood's career where, you know, he literally hadn't been in the saddle for a long time. I'm talking about Westerns. I think the last Western that he had done previous to this was Pale Rider, which was in the mid-'80s. And
85,
that was,
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and that wasn't so great. So when I heard that Unforgiven was coming out and it was finally going to be a return to the Western, I was extremely excited about it. Even more excited than I had been for some of his, you know, other directorial movies. Like, you know, I mean, previous to Unforgiven, he had done, you know, White Hunter, Black Heart, and I don't even think I had seen that at this point when Unforgiven came out, and then I think I went back and checked that out and saw how great that was. But I don't know, when Unforgiven came out, I just had this sort of like weird kind of like, well, I've talked about on some Oscar shows about how I have like a little bell that goes off in my head when I see the Oscar winner for the year or whatever, you know, whether it's a trailer for it or the actual movie or whatever, but a little bell goes off. And I didn't even have to see the trailer for Unforgiven for the bell to go off for me. I was like, hey, it's about time that Clint Eastwood, you know, came up with something really, really great. That said, you know, I mean, it did end up winning Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor for Gene Hackman, and director for Eastwood, and I think it won Best Editing as well for Joel Cox. It only won 4 awards out of 8. But and I really think that David Webb Peoples' screenplay should have won that year too. But this film has such a feeling of like an overwhelming feeling of loss to it. It's really a movie about people. It's a movie about people who were liars. First of all, almost every one of the characters in the movie is a liar in some way or another. I mean, Morgan Freeman is lying about his own abilities. The kid, the Schofield kid, is lying about his ability to see. Clint Eastwood's character is lying about how he's not that kind of man anymore, even though he really is. It just takes the drink, takes the liquor to get it out of him. The women who have contracted for this killer to come in to take revenge on a man who had cut up one of their fellow whores or whatever, not to use that word for them, but that's what they were. You know, they're lying too. They have to lie in order to get this, you know, this thing out there. Gene Hackman is lying about his you know, his supposed good nature, but actually he's not a good man at all. He's a villain that's just has a badge on. That's the only difference, you know. So everybody in this movie is lying in some way. So that's an interesting thing. But everybody in the movie is feeling some sort of sense of loss. And of course, chief among those is Clint Eastwood's character, who found redemption in the love of a woman and who he had kids with, but the woman is gone now, and he's rudderless without her in his life. And so it makes it very easy for him to actually drift back into the bad behavior that he had indulged in earlier in his life. And so I don't know. The movie is just filled with that sense, that sort of like impending, sort of like overwhelming darkness. In fact, like a lot of Clint Eastwood's movies, it has this sense of like incredible blackness to it. Eastwood loves to film in very dark shades, and so this is no different. But also, this movie also has this sort of like this sort of overwhelming beauty to it too. This sort of well, first of all, there's never been a Best Picture winner like it. Let me just say that right now. It has to be the darkest, and I mean like emotionally darkest movie to ever win Best Picture. But also, I always remember the way the movie begins and ends with that beautifully worded scroll that comes up that tells you at the beginning, who William Money is, and then at the end, what actually happened to William Money, or what was rumored to happen to him. And then with those two scenes, with that incredible music that I think Eastwood actually wrote that backs both of those scenes. With those scenes, you really get a sense of what the man could have been, and actually what he really was. And I just think that's beautiful. I think the movie is absolutely extraordinary.
And it really, I mean, Clint Eastwood is as an actor in westerns, he built a career on creating the mythic. And actually, I mean, his, like you said, Pale Rider in '85, his previous western. I mean, it was nothing if not mythic. I mean, you didn't even know if that character was human, or if he was some kind of avenging apparition. So I think that Unforgiven is a great flip side of that. And that's why it feels like the perfect kind of final word on the Western. Where could he possibly go with a Western after that? I mean, that's the deepest sentiment that he can make about the genre.
It is the meeting, you're right, it is the meeting of the mythic with the real with that movie. It's like, I think that's another thing that those bookends that I was talking about actually do. It's filled with great performances all the way through. Richard Harris and as English Bob, and Saul Rubinek as his writerly counterpart, and of course. Gene Hackman is superb in it, but there's also people like Anthony James as the owner of the billiard parlor, who's great in it, and all the women that are in it, including Frances Farmer. They're all terrific in it. So it's very economical. It's 2 hours long, but it feels like it really feels like a novel on film in some ways. It really feels like the greatest novel that you've ever seen.
Well, it is very economical, and I think that the movie really benefits from Clint Eastwood likes simplicity.
Yes, he does.
And that translates to the performances as well. I mean, you think of, and I've probably said this before about Gene Hackman in that film, but I think that Gene Hackman won that Oscar because of his scene with Morgan Freeman, where he's beating Morgan Freeman, and he says, if your answers don't match up with their answers, then I'm going to hurt you real bad. There's a typical way to play that, which is more broadly, more menacing. He plays it almost saying that in a whisper to his ear, like he keeps telling him, sweet nothings in his ear or something. And it's all the more menacing for it. I mean, it's a very simple decision that he makes that's so great. And also its approach to violence. Violence in this movie, and I think this is why a lot of hardcore Eastwood fans of old resisted Unforgiven, of the older generation I'm talking about, because they were expecting a Western or shoot 'em up, And this does have that shoot 'em up quality, but you see the ugliness and the senselessness of the violence.
Right.
I mean, he goes in, he kills Bill, he kills everyone in the bar. He walks out. What's the first thing he sees? Morgan Freeman's dead body. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. There can be no closure to this. It's ugly. It's haunting, and that movie pays service to that.
Well, again, back to the mythic too. The movie is also really about the breaking down of myths. I mean, and that's the whole Saul Rubinek character. The reason that he's in there, because he's making a living off of
creating it,
escalating this guy like English Bob up into being, like Jesse James or whatever.
Yeah, well, he's...
English Bob is just a flea on a rat that's going by. I mean, he's like he's nothing. So really, and it's great those scenes, for instance, where Gene Hackman is kind of deconstructing the myth that Saul Rubinek has written in that book that he likes to call The Duck of Death.
That was hilarious.
But the whole movie is really all about exploding these myths. I love, for instance, the movie taught me one of the things that it taught me, which I don't think I'm ever going to use, but because I've never picked up a gun in my life. But it taught me that it's incredibly hard to shoot a man. It's very difficult. It's much more difficult than it looks like in the movies or whatever, or whatever. It's much more difficult. You've got to have a steely sort of disposition in order to do that. And I love how that movie, how Unforgiven actually illustrates that very, very vehemently. But
I'm just thankful that Kevin Costner didn't do it. And maybe it's self-aggrandizement, but Costner always said, I had that script, I knew it was a good one, and I was going to do it. I don't 100% trust him on that, but apparently Eastwood had the script forever too, but and was holding on to it for just the right time. Jerry, you think that's one? I mean, if you made a top 3 Eastwood, and I know you love Eastwood, I mean that has to be.
Well, before the empty chair, yeah. But I do like Eastwood a lot, and I think that's a good film. I think it's about time that someone recognized him. I mean, because he's like the closest thing. I mean, he's a guy who does everything. He paid attention to like Sergio Leone and Don Siegel, and obviously adored John Huston.
The movie, even dedicated Unforgiven to those two guys.
Yeah, and he loved, obviously must have adored John Huston, because I don't know if there's anyone alive who is kind of mirrored the career of John Huston, in a sense. I mean, his range is unbelievable. But yeah, no, Unforgiven, and especially that year. Remember, that was a year of a lot of disappointing movies, through the first half, and the summer turned out to be a bust, and then that comes out. That was just like, wow.
That was like an August release, right?
Yeah, you had that, and you had Raising Cain, and no, but that's good. I do like Raising Cain. But Unforgiven really was like one of the best films, and then later that year you had some other. We also had Howard's End, and Reservoir Dogs, and Malcolm X, A Few Good Men, Dracula, but Unforgiven was superb. There's no.
And Howard the Duck 6 years earlier.
There you go, Howard the Duck of Death.
Glenn Ross was also that year.
That was a good end. You had Singles that year, Glenn Ross. You had a lot of really good movies in that fall.
But 92 isn't the greatest year. Howard the Duck of Death.
Great.
That's funny.
Okay. So we'll come back tomorrow night, and we'll bring you guys our number 5 through 1, and it should go faster because I think there's some repeats in here we don't have to rehash. At least on my list, I think there are. So thank you, guys. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow night at 10.
All right, tomorrow night at 10. Have a good night, guys.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye-bye.